Crystal.
How's Merope is the short film with Christel. We had interviewed her a few months ago, and she's back with us on another film. And then JC, the director, really, can I call it trippy film? With interesting film, perspective film. Really interested in this film. So JC's in Florida. You're in Miami,
I'm in Miami.
and then Christel, you're in Arizona, the middle of Arizona, right?
I'm in Sedona.
Yeah. And so, how did you guys collaborate on this film from two different cities?
Well, you want to take the lead, Juan Carlos?
You can start. You can start.
Well, I think, let's see, a couple of years ago, I did a film with a German filmmaker. I did not the film, do the film. I wrote the music for a film with a German filmmaker, Dreaming of Wales. And I was going to continue with a feature film with this man. And unfortunately, very sadly, he passed away during COVID. And then the founder of Illuminate Film Festival here in Sedona, Danette Wolpert, she introduced me to Juan Carlos. You and Juan Carlos Zaldivar is a friend of and colleague of Danette. Am I saying that correct? Uh,
Yeah, then Ed and I worked at the at the Miami Film Festival together years before.
yes, and then we reconnected, and then this whole thing came about. It slowly came about, and then Winifred Munch, and me, we founded a festival called Reflections Festival, and our first iteration of that festival was Merope. And maybe Juan Carlos can tell a little bit more about the film.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so the thing that brought Crystal and I together was her music, and I think the heart of Merope is really the music. I think it all started there. Um, Winnie and Crystal have worked together before, correct? And so they came to me with this idea, which I thought was kind of brilliant, of doing um, like an arts festival that would be a collaboration across disciplines that would somehow, right, would come up with a piece of work. And so Crystal had this amazing aria, this really beautiful piece of music. And then from there, Winnie assembled a team of people in Sedona, and so some of us were in other places. And we began a conversation over Zoom. And then the idea started coming together. And we had a choreographer, we have a dancer, we had a photographer who was going to come in and do some work. And some of that work is in the film as well. Um, who else? Crystal, am I forgetting anybody else? Um,
Well, I think we had a cameraman, so we had Levi
yes.
Holyman, cameraman. We had Rachel Cahelli, Winnie as the coordinator, and an assistant producer, right? And then Jordan Pelleteri as the dancer,
Hmm.
and let's see, you as the director, of course,
Hmm.
and and then we had a chef to cook
Yeah,
us.
and we had a costume person who also
Also,
helped us with the
Rosemary
costume.
Mays, correctly,
Yeah.
yes.
And then
And
we had a lot of volunteers because we were shooting in the middle of this natural setting, that's really breathtaking. And we wanted to shoot in the middle of the night. So um, we needed help. And it was also kind of a trek to get there. So the whole thing was very much an adventure.
And
yes,
where did you shoot it? What state?
It's
we shot it here in Sedona.
Okay,
So
so you saw it.
I found the spot right away because Sedona is is beautiful. It's a beautiful place. First of all, but second of all, it has incredible and it's a dark sky community. Now this was in the middle of August. Now I don't know if you're familiar with Arizona, but August is really hot.
Yeah,
And,
one would
and we
assume
have
the desert, August. Yeah, that
yeah.
adds up. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to have, I found the spot right away, but it was quite an ordeal to get there. So we had to hike in the middle of the night
Mhm.
to set it and we set it up in the middle of the day, but we had to hike in and a lot in and out wading through the water
We had to
and
cross a
rocks.
creek to get there. There was a flood warning zone. It was really super exciting. But you know, one magical thing happened is that during the shoot, there was one night which is it was the brightest night of the year. And it's the one night where the constellation where Merope is was actually visible in the sky. And I took a picture of that midnight, and it really looked like if you see the picture, you wouldn't tell that it was midnight because it looks so bright. The shadows were so strong from the moon that day.
Mhm.
So it was kind of a sign of nature saying, you know, a little nod from nature saying that we were doing a nice thing. I think featuring Sedona was also a big, you know, it was at the center of it
Yeah.
because that's where Crystal is, and that's where the festival where Winnie wanted to do the festival. So I think from Crystal's music, we were also thinking about how to feature Sedona and you know and aspects of Sedona that people maybe don't know that well.
Mhm.
Okay, so so Crystal's music is already done. So you're kind of building the story around her music. Was it 8 minutes, like, or did you bring it like was it was it an 8 minute piece of music, or did you kind of like work around like less on the music for the film? That makes
It was
sense.
a little bit shorter, I think, and we added a little bit, and then
Stretch it out, yeah.
the narration wasn't there. It was a track. It's a track that was released on an album, Pleiades, and Merope is one of the seven sisters of the Pleiades of the star cluster, the Pleiades, and so that track had already been released on that album, but we then adjusted it for the film and made it a little longer. I think we added
Mhm.
2 minutes or something like that. No, I don't remember
Yeah.
now.
It was
Mhm.
really magical playing that, doing the playback in the middle
Yeah.
of the forest at night, right?
Mhm.
We had this scene, which I don't know if it ended up in the movie. Well, some of it ended up in the movie, but I think we did a version of it out that didn't end up in the movie. So when the birth scene, when you know, what we ended up using was done in a studio, where she's kind of stretching through this fabric with the lights inside.
Mhm.
But we did another version that had this reflective material and so she was standing in the darkness, and this is the kind of material that, you know, you see in shoes and stuff that becomes really bright when the light hits it. So it looked, we had this cape that she was wearing that was really beautiful. And so there were so many moments in it that felt so magical, you know, to be out there. There was something else we did, which is we actually tied the dancer to trees with this very thin elastic so that she would be part of the trees. And so I don't know, being there and experiencing that, you know, like as you think about it, you draw it, right? You talk about it, but those were really magical moments that I'll never forget.
So talk to me about the dance choreography and kind of like piecing the story together. Did you write a script, kind of like knowing what you're going to do, and who did the choreography?
We were more intuitive. Crystal one can talk about the choreography, and then I can.
Choreography was done together. Was Jordan Pelletieri in collaboration with Rachel Kaheli. When they organized the choreography ahead of time. They practiced together, and
Mhm.
then there was we had we had a very nice neighbor across the street who offered us their house, so they were adding to the magic of the filming was the in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
After it
Yeah,
was
it can.
dark, you would just walk down the street and you saw Juan Carlos with the whole crew
Yes.
in the middle of the street
We were
film.
doing tests for the flying sequence in the middle of the street. But so there was a dancer and a choreographer, and then we had a series of Zoom meetings
Mhm.
talking conceptually, right, about you know where we might be shooting so that we could begin to think visually what the story would be like.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to the choreographer and the dancer um, who had already thought about the piece of music and the choreography from a movement perspective. And then we sort of then I started to kind of adding more of a story perspective. So then we had this conversation so that we could see what people were interested in, and that's how the story kind of evolved. And the idea that we were going to focus on this idea of emancipation, right, or a shy person kind of coming out of their shell and becoming more assertive. And so all of that was a series of conversations over Zoom. And then the choreographer and the dancer would go and work, and then they'd come back, and we would have, I would ask, like, so what, what movements did you think
Yeah,
about? And then they would tell me what they were working on, and so then I would start thinking about, well, then that would be good in a studio, or that would be good there, or I have this idea can we do that tied to a tree, or
gotcha.
can we do that?
And
And
there
who
was
wrote
also
the who wrote
an
the narration
underlying
in the beginning?
story.
But
Sorry. There was also an underlying story that I wrote beforehand that we didn't stay exactly to the script, but remember there was there was a narrative beforehand of a story that I shared with everybody that we kind of loosely used for the film.
that was my next question is the narration. So you kind of wrote the narration, set up the
Yeah.
themes of the film.
The
Excuse
first
me?
one is a poem by Nikita
Yeah.
Grit, right?
Yeah.
And so the first one is that, and then yeah, Crystal wrote the narration for the end.
Yeah. Which
Gotcha.
was based on it was partly the translation of a Hermann Hesse uh, poem, but or quote, I should say. But I rewrote it so that it would fit our purpose.
And you like you said that the costume though. So talk to me about the costume.
Mhm.
There, I say it's like not to sound like general, but it's like kind of like an angel kind of like she's more of like an angel, I guess, in a sense.
Mhm. Well, I was looking at one of my favorite. I'm a filmmaker by trade, but I also do visual arts
Yeah.
and I studied film history. And one of my favorite things about the beginning of films where Edison was really had a really good friend that he met in a vaudeville show who had an act where she had these skirts that would open up like a butterfly. And so she would do these dances in the nightclub, and he wanted to film that. So he became friends with her, and those were one of the very earliest colorized pieces of film.
Mhm.
So he filmed her a lot. She became very famous. She would travel to nightclubs all over the world, and she became very famous because he filmed her and put her in a movie, and that movie was colorized. And so you can still find it in archives. And I just love what he did was that he would sometimes would slow down the film, so you could see the movement. And when we're talking about a star, I just thought, well, it has to be something that's airborne, right? And there's something about that sort of costume that, makes you think of a butterfly and sometimes a bird, right? Sometimes something else. And so we kind of started there. And I love the idea that it was a dancer, right, who made that costume popular. And so that's kind of where that idea came from.
Gotcha. So it's like a fall to the beginning of film, basically, like Edison,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
literally
it
the
was like
beginning of film.
because we
Yeah.
were talking about a genesis, right? At the beginning, is sort
Yeah.
of the genesis of this star, and it is a star that's kind of hidden from the Pleiades. The Merope is not always visible. Is that correct, Rick Crystal?
Yeah, that's Merope is one of the seven stars of the star cluster, the Pleiades. And so but she's the one that you can barely see with the naked eye. And so it was also the last star that they discovered.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of magic. I read up a lot on the Greek legends, and they're
Yeah.
also very amusing
Yeah.
stories. So the flying part is also because the stars they were chased by Orion, and then Orion, and then for protection they went to Zeus, and then Zeus turned them into doves, turned all the sisters into doves, and they put them into the sky. I hope I get this right this time.
Yeah.
So something like
Yeah.
that.
And then
There's a whole mythology to the
yeah.
Pleiades, and also cosmologically, they're also like there's all sorts of other uh, um, properties that people give to them, like when they become visible at a certain time of year, and sometimes they align them with very significant events that have happened in human history and the Earth. So there's a lot of mythology behind the cluster of stars.
And
And
then, and
sorry to butt it. One thing that I should say that the pic that I, because I didn't mention his name, Jim Peterson. He was a photographer, and the stills that you see in the film were by him and by Glenn Grayson. He was also somebody who contributed to the film.
Yeah. And some of the collages, right, were uh Amy
Oh,
Ernst
yeah, I forgot. Oops.
which is probably one of the
Beautiful
most famous
artwork.
people
Yes.
in the one of the collaborators. But she very kindly, she's Max Ernst's granddaughter, is that correct? Or
Oh, yeah.
and she's an artist in her own right, and she does these beautiful collages. And so we thought that they were kind of perfect for, because there's these shapes that kind of look like planets or stars in them, and so they
Well,
were
that
also.
core of the rocks
yeah,
is the
Yeah,
artwork of
yeah.
her. And
So I started to look at them and like decompose them, and then I started to look at the choreography, and I noticed, that, like, so I was trying to kind of see one thing into the other and try
yeah.
to bring correlations from one to the other. Like one shape reminded me of a rocket at one point, and another one reminded me, of her sort of arc, and so I tried to draw those correlations in the editing.
And so tell me about this, like the white balls. Like can I call it the white balls?
Mm-hmm.
The six
they're
white,
the
because you have it
sisters.
at the beginning, and then you kind of
Yeah.
it's throughout the film. So what's the some symbolism of that?
They are the sisters. So from
The
the
sisters.
seven
Okay.
sisters, so the six balls are the representative of the other sisters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's open, of course, you can, but those are the ideas that we were thinking of. We also thought of them as virtues because each one of them has like specific properties. Like when you look at the mythology and stuff, each of the stars, it's given sort of a personality in mythologically. So we also we also were thinking that those were different virtues, right? That she was exploring until she kind of found her own.
Yeah, the original story that brings it now back. I had forgotten about that, but the original story was that I had written was that Merope was kind of lost to the world, and but she was pretty unaware of herself, and then with the help of her sisters, she slowly discovered parts of herself. So
Mhm.
they gave her the strength, and then eventually she stood up and she shone as brightly as she possibly could and joined the world. Something, that's kind of the gist of it.
And so this was done for the film festival. So I'm assuming it showed. And are you guys going to collaborate again? Is there another collaboration coming up again?
I would love to.
I
We're
hope so. I mean, and with Crystal and I started talking about whales. That's how we met. And I don't know about Crystal, but I'm still want to do that project, and
Love to.
and I would love for Crystal to sing, on it or work with me musically on it. Technology is evolving so quickly, and with artificial intelligence, there are some really amazing tools now that would make what I wanted to do. I have this like pet project that I've had for years that I've wanted to do, and for the first time it's super feasible.
Mhm.
I was always going to be able to do it, but it's going to be very involved because we didn't really have equipment to turn easily to without like a. I don't write music, but I was a sound designer, so I have worked with composers all the time, and I can certainly have a conversation and give somebody directions and suggestions and collaborate with people who write music. But I've never, but now I could actually take sounds and convert them into sheet music, that which I wasn't able to do before. I could actually now sample my voice and make it into instruments. So there's a lot of really cool possibilities that are becoming available to us.
Yeah.
And I hope I hope that we can collaborate on more things.
I'd love to. Yeah.
So, Crystal, what's your feeling of what he just described about like about kind of composing music through AI.
Well, so you interviewed me a couple of months ago, so I created a film using AI.
Yeah,
So I think it's fair he can use music, right?
yeah,
If I can do this with film, and he's allowed to do it with music.
yeah,
Well, I would do it with I would do it
I
I'm
know.
not a composer, so I haven't, I don't, my aim is not to come up with a record or anything like that.
yeah.
But I'm more interested sort of in the exploration as an art project. And I was a sound designer for many years and I've done, over 23 films.
Mhm.
So I love the idea of sound. I just love everything about sound. And I think is like Merope in many ways is the one of the art forms that is more is invisible. And so we don't even have a language to speak about sound, even though it's so important in terms of giving us information about the world. Um, we we perceive space because of sound, because of
Yeah.
our ears. So there's so many things that the average person maybe is not aware about sound that I I just I also think that music is probably of all the art forms the one that can reach the heart or emotions quicker
Yeah.
because I think one note can just make you feel something. You can't say that about a brushstroke. You could, but it just has to be, it's
No.
always in collaboration with something else, other materials. And music seems really pure to me. So I look at it more as, I mean, I would definitely work with a composer who knows music and knows composition and orchestrations and things like that. Um,
Yeah, I love what you just said. It's amazing. Like it's like because that's what AI just from a macro standpoint, it's going to teach people. I'm paraphrasing what you just said, but it's going to teach people about sound and like the
yeah.
meaning of it and like what it really means, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I
think
think I think there are tools now. I mean, tools have been around since the 1700s to visualize sound,
yeah.
but unless you studied sound, you didn't really know that stuff, right? So, but even I tell my students all the time, so I teach sound design sometimes, and I just tell we have been taught this idea of a sound wave because it's the easiest way to understand all of the different aspects of sound. But that's almost like saying that the world is flat,
Mhm.
like it gives you some sense of space that is very limited because in fact any sound, it's more like a rose. It has these very elaborate shapes that are coming at you and going through you and affecting you, matter in you. So just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it isn't powerful. There are reasons that thousands of people follow DJs as if they were kings, or prophets or something,
Yeah.
So music really moves matter, and that means that it moves us, and I love that aspect of it.
yeah. And
And it's been, yeah, go ahead.
oh God, the music for the Merope music is actually, I don't know if you realized it, the language doesn't exist. I made it up. So
Mhm.
and so that was done on purpose, so to be more free in
Mm.
expressing myself and whatever came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so interesting the way the evolution of this project for you two meeting each other and then kind of giving it life because of someone's death in a sense, right? So and basically being inspired by that and just kind of moving forward, like you're both moving forward in the direction of where storytelling is headed. So it's kind of amazing because people are afraid of it or they're like it's the same thing what happened with like when things were shot on film and then the digital evolution came, everybody's like, no, 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 I'm always going to shoot on film. You know what I mean? That's the
Right.
way, yeah, it's sort of, but, or basically back in the day where it was like, when it was like sound, when it was like silent movies to talkies, and people are like, no, 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 we
Yeah.
always got to evolve, right, with the technology that's in front of
Yeah.
us.
I
And
mean, obviously, there are a lot of really safety concerns
sure, of
as
course,
the technology evolves, but
yeah,
the technology is just a tool. Tools are not evil or good. People
yeah,
are. Like a knife, you can spread butter with it or you can kill someone with it.
yeah.
So the knife is not the danger, it's how you use it. And
Yeah.
I think technology, any technology is like, it that applies to any technology.
That's what you should say at a social media seminar. It's like
Mhm.
it's not don't hate the creator of it. It's just hate the people who, who
Right.
post and use it for evil, right? So
Yeah, it's hard when there is no control, when there is no, when it's a free for all,
yeah,
uh, things become very chaotic. And I think, without enough conversation or thought about the benefits of chaos versus like the disruption of chaos
yeah,
or like the negative disruption of chaos, then it could easily become negative, right? So I think that's the danger with AI, that there isn't enough ethical discussions about about it. It's all more about what it can do, and then we do it because we just can, instead of thinking about the repercussions of, what does it mean to do that?
yeah, yeah. But then like who decides that, right? So basically we're a flawed species, or it's like we evolved and who knows what's gonna happen to us, right? Like even look at the
Well,
where
I don't think we should do things because you can, right? I
no,
think
no,
that
I
there's
understand what you're saying, but
better
who's gonna decide who's gonna be the decider of what you can and can't do, right? So
AI. At this point, AI is going to decide.
no, that's what I mean though. Like who's
Because
gonna
it's free.
regulate?
It's like the monster is free, like it's
Yeah,
doing. We can't put the genie back in the bottle.
no,
Uh,
100%, right? Like even if like so there's gonna be government regulation, like come on, like
But it
like
can
it's like
become autonomous. It's already proved it. So it will become autonomous. Even if it doesn't become sentient, it has a lot of power. It's a digital, being that's doing things on its own. But anyway, that's another conversation, probably.
no, 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 but it's because she like as Crystal said, you're talking about using it for the creation and Crystal
Well,
the AI movie, right? So it's
yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
sort of where you guys are basically doing this, right? So
Yeah, I think it's a great tool for identifying, right? Or making things visible that weren't before. So
I'm trying
like,
to focus on something on the positive end of it because I know there
yeah,
are all kinds of sides to this story. But on the
yeah,
positive end, I feel that I'm I feel like I'm in a toy shop. I can play with
yeah,
so many more. There are so
yeah,
many more ways to express myself, which was
yeah,
really exciting. Because
yeah,
and that's amazing to me. And
yeah,
also that kind of happened because I come from the classical music world. I was trained as a pianist and as a singer classically. I'd never touched a computer in my life, and nothing
yeah,
until I started this. What 30 years, 20 years, 25 years ago, and now and the first I remember I was when the whole new world opened for me, and since I've never been one to stay around in one place too long, um, and traveled around the world for so much, that made my life a lot easier. That I could access things from a digital point of view, and now with AI, I mean, it's just amazing. That's
hmm
the positive part of it. I know.
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's
Opposite.
amazing to be able to talk. I mean, soon we're going to be able to talk to birds or know what they're saying. That's kind of fantastic. Or like
Right.
understand whale,
right. You know what the birds are gonna
whale
say?
songs in a way that we've never even thought it was possible.
And those things, the images, it's like, I don't know at this point, I don't know where a song begins, the story ends, the story begins, the song ends, the
Yeah,
film begins. It is kind of it's all mixed together, and one pollinates the other, which I find fascinating. So if I get stuck with the music, I find a visual, and if I don't find the visual, then I find the music, and I don't find the music, then I find a
Yeah.
poem, and it's endless, and
mhm.
Yeah.
that's really productive and a joy to work with.
Yeah,
We need
it
to-
makes me think of David Lynch, who just passed away this week, and he used to always say that the writing is just uh, having a hook for ideas, and
Mhm.
then once you get one, I like you just kind of throw a hook out and you get an idea, and once you have an idea, then you have a bait, and they keep coming, and you don't understand how they're gonna fit together, but they somehow do, right? And that's the kind of that's the magic of it, is that there's this sort of alchemy that happens that uh I live for. I love the process of creation and the collaboration for that reason. I could do things on my own, but I choose to do film because film is a collaboration.
100%. Yeah.
Film involves all of the arts, like music, art, drawing, you name it.
Performance. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yes,
know,
yeah,
one thing that I wanted to say when we were doing the production of Merope, what I will never forget is we had a week that we worked with choreographers, dancers, painters, filmmaker, and advisors on the side, a chef who could cook for us. And it was such an amazing week, and I think especially because this is how I remember it is and everybody could fly as high as they wanted in their own field, and while they were doing that, it was so powerful to meet. We had to have all these people together for an entire week over lunch and dinner, and then during the film shoots and discuss. It was just magical. That whole process for Merope, and I hope we had a fantastic team. Also, advisors on the side like Ahmed Valk, he was there.
yes, yeah.
There, and Winnie Minch, who was who did an incredible amount of work on the side of getting grants and
Producing and getting permits and making things happen.
we needed permits. But to have those people all together and then sit at a table and eat and discuss afterwards, it was just
Yeah, and
absolutely.
stay in the same houses in the same block, walk down to each other's houses. It was kind of great. It was like having an artist retreat, and then
Was, yes.
but focused, like where everybody's working on on a similar idea.
And so I'm hoping for many more of these events with that team and the team would love to come together again. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I hope it does. And on that note, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, it's amazing and what you guys did. And hopefully, like you can collaborate more. But you guys seem to be both of you, both individually, seem to be busy as well, doing various things. So keep at it.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for featuring our film
Yeah.
and featuring us. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. All right. We'll talk again when we showcase your next film.
Thank you very much.
Bye.